Hey, everybody. We need a pitching avatar to be studied throughout baseball. Hey, everybody. This is Dr. Kevin McGovern. It's another episode of the Velocity RX podcast. And this is an interesting topic. There has been a tremendous amount of studies written about the effect of throwing, okay, long toss, short toss, weighted balls. There was just a recent article. One of my colleagues, Mike Reinhold, has a very long article out about different throwing and stresses to the elbow and to the shoulder. And there's, there's tons of articles written about injury and load management, but there's nothing written or agreed upon about mechanics, right? So you can have, and that to me, the studies are flawed. No disrespect to anybody, but if you have 30 13-year-olds in a study, not one of those 13-year-olds is alike, right? They're all of different sizes and shapes and movement quality. So if you're going to do a study, you know, and you're comparing the load management or the, you know, how taxing we are on shoulder or elbow joints, well, 5 pitches from Bob could be 30 pitches from Steve or 1 pitch from Mike, depending on how they move. So I'm really, and I'm no academic person, but that's not my forte. But I do have, what I would consider a PhD in common sense. So we have all of these, studies talking about stress to the arm, and they're all very well intentioned and they're all researched very, very well. But we need to really have a conversation about what is proper mechanics. Like, I'm coming on the air now, 2 days after the Red Sox signed a pitcher in free agency, Giolito, and he'll never pitch for them. He's got a 2-year contract, and he just blew out his elbow, so he needs Tommy John surgery. And all of a sudden, all the tweets go up that he had a change in his mechanics. He went to Driveline, and they changed his mechanics to increase velocity, and now he's hurt. So did the mechanics cause it? Did something he do in the training? We don't know. But what we do know is that throwing overhead, throwing a baseball, the injury rate has gone through the absolute roof in the last 20 years. And we're not even talking about pitchers. Let's just look at my hometown New York Yankees. In the last 4 years, okay, they've had 3 position players, including 2 outfielders, one their new star center fielder, Jason Dominguez, blow out their elbow. Okay. So, what is happening? What is it? Is it the training? Is it the mechanics? Is it all of the above? Here's what we know for facts. Okay. In 1974, a kind of, 5'11", kind of, normal sized guy pitching for the Los Angeles Dodgers named Tommy John has this medial elbow pain in his left arm. And he goes down and he meets with a famous orthopedic surgeon called Frank Jobe, and they decide that, this ligament in his, right here in the medial side of his elbow is torn, and we need to perform the surgery. And we're going to take this tendon and we're going to name it after you. And, Tommy John was actually able to pitch, and I think until he was like 47. He missed, this is the key point, he missed the year. So he had surgery, I believe it was late in the season, like September, and then came back, missed the year, and then came back. Well, guess what? That surgery now, the rehab time is literally almost double that. These guys are missing definitely a full season and into another season, and they're not really effective. So we know the surgery is better, right? The scar is smaller, the whole technique is better, but these guys are not coming back as quick as they did 30 years ago, and they're getting injured at an alarming rate. And everywhere I see, we're of everybody pushing different things. You have one guru pushing, well, it's arm strength. And then, well, it's, you have other people, Driveline just says it's part of the game. Well, I don't believe it's just arm strength, and I certainly don't believe that it's part of the game. But we need to come to the consensus on what are good and bad mechanics. Ask any human being professionally who knows me. I took one look 20 some years ago, maybe 18 years ago, or whatever it is, at Steven Strasberg, and I said, this guy is never going to last. Okay. He had that inverted W, horrific mechanics. Now, Steven Strasberg literally has nerve damage in his right arm so bad, it's reported that he has difficulty with ADLs, which is activities of daily living. So that would be dressing, eating. I mean, that's just insane. And I look at those mechanics and I'd be like, how did you let that pass? And what's his name? The guy, LSU, the number one draft pick, Skeens. He's another one. He's late. His arm is way behind him, and he's already, committed his whole body. All the stress is on the elbow. That to me is fingers on a chalkboard. That would be something that would not be included in my avatar. So if we just took him and we had him throw, let's say, 100 pitches, and then we had someone like Mariano Rivera, who had tremendous extension and threw downhill, and he threw 100 pitches. Okay. And then we took an MRI of the elbow. I can guarantee that Mariano Rivera has less stress on his elbow because he was throwing the ball in a more gravity assisted position. His mechanics were better. Okay. And then you look at someone like Clemens and Nolan Ryan with these, the great drop and drive. Now today, everyone is kind of jumping forward in what I call drifting and leaving their arm well behind them. So all of those movements, I feel as a physical therapist, seeing injury, having a kid in front of you with an elbow injury, and then, hey, Dad, do you got video? And I look at the video and it's like, oh my God, no wonder your son is injured, right? Because he's bad. Like he's got bad positioning. So I have my own avatar for my Velocity RX program. I've got 9 different checkpoints or biomarkers where I feel that the arm should be in or at during the delivery. Okay. But the biggest thing is that the player needs to accelerate his or her arm in a gravity assisted position. So what does that mean? That means I've finished all of my rotation of my spine. I still have the ball. I'm past noon on the clock and I'm throwing downhill, straight downhill, as if I'm serving, right? These guys are striking downhill. They're not striking uphill. The ball will go out of Wimbledon and hit the king in the head. Okay. So that's part of my avatar. But we're talking about doing these studies about the effect of anything on something, right, that requires movement, but you're not taking into consideration the quality of that movement. I think the studies are flawed. And I think, there was a plyo ball study years ago. Like, there are kids I would be concerned if they're throwing a wiffle ball, let alone a plyo ball. So, what's your criteria for getting them into the study? Have they been muscle tested, range of motion tested? Like, this is my point. If you're going to study the effect of something on movement, shouldn't that movement have some sort of criteria to be included in the study or at least agreed upon? Like golf, golf has a machine called Iron Byron. It is this big, that swing that does all their club testing. Okay. It's the same swing every single time. And it's patterned after Byron Nelson. Does Byron Nelson have the greatest swing in golf? I don't know, but at least it's a constant, right? So if you had a study and every kid moved exactly the same, then you could actually study, okay, at 50 throws, the elbow starts to break down in all these kids. But again, one pitch could be your last. And this is why, with this whole pitch count thing, and everyone, is so hung up on pitch count as a marker of when someone has to come out of the game. And okay, but they can go into the game and their warm-up pitches could have been injurious, right? Their long toss in the outfield could have been bad. So, then they went on the mound through 50 pitches and they come out of the game with little league elbow, right? And well, they only threw 50 pitches. Yeah, but they threw 50 warm-ups and all of them were bad. They moved bad. So we need to have an avatar, I mean, are we talking about the Roger Clemens and Nolan Ryan and Bob Gibson drop and drive, the extension of a Jim Palmer and a Mariano Rivera? We certainly know what's bad. For years, people said that Mark Prior had fantastic mechanics. Okay. I took one look at Mark Prior and who said he had fantastic mechanics? Oh, Tom House. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Tom House was wrong. Mark Prior did not have good mechanics. His mechanics were F. They were terrible. He should have been tackled before he went on the mound. They were horrible. So, but that's one man's opinion. They were good, but what's the result? Well, he's out of baseball. Steven Strasburg, horrific mechanics, out of baseball. So these guys, what we know is bad, right? We can look and be like, this is really, really bad. This is really injurious. I would never teach this, to a young person. And maybe that's what it is. Like, okay, this is a young person. They're just learning how to throw. Are we putting them in this inverted W position? No. When a little toddler picks up a ball for the first time, they never get in that position. They throw it like a pie. Okay. So if we really want to do something to start to help these young arms and major league arms and little league arms and Babe Ruth arms and all these arms stay healthy, we need to get a consensus on what is good. And we need to throw away everything that you think that Like every time I post something about mechanics on Twitter or X, people, whoa, dude, doing the same thing over and over again is going to lead to the same results, and that's called insanity. Okay, we need to stop the insanity. Okay, we need to look at basic science. If my whole body is through and my arm is hanging backwards, where's the stress? Okay, medial elbow, and we need to get an avatar. Okay, an agreed upon avatar, and if we don't, anything we're doing beyond that is really not going to help anybody. Okay. It'll get some likes, it'll get a magazine or get an article published. People will get a little recognition. But at the end of the day, it's not going to solve anything because we're studying the effect of a movement, but we're not studying or we're not qualifying or quantifying how good that movement has to be. And until we do that, the problems are going to continue. So that is why I have developed my own Velocity RX avatar. Like I said, I've got 9 positions where I think the arm needs to be. And that's coming from a broken position, meaning that this whole, process started from a rehab perspective, or if people know my story, my own perspective, where I have a fully torn ulnar collateral ligament and taught myself how to pitch without pain and pitch for another 20 years after I tore it. So, I'm building pitchers and little leaguers from growth plate tears, up. So my avatar comes from a rehab perspective first. So is that the right answer? It works for the program. It gets people back. Okay. It gets my average Tommy John rehab is certainly less than a year to be back on the mound. So we need an avatar. If you want to talk about my avatar, you can certainly visit velocityrx.org. I've got a whole online course, group coaching, I work with players all over the country, locally here in Acton, Massachusetts. Velocity RX is going to deliver three things: better velocity, better command, and a bulletproof arm. So let's get together. Let's get like minds together. Let's get in a room. Let's hash it out, and figure out what is the best, truly study the movement and what is the less stressful on the body. Let's get a pitcher that moves the movement quality of a Fred Couples as a golfer. You know how smooth and silky his golf swing is? Let's get that for a pitcher. Let's get what mechanics are the most powerful, the most neurologically correct, and the least stressful on the arm and the shoulder. Thanks for listening. Stay tuned for more episodes. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel, like it. That gets more people to see the information. Appreciate it, and I'll see you on the next episode. Oh, if you want to read, I wrote a whole article. It's on the blog section of velocityrx.org, and it's on my LinkedIn page. I wrote a whole article about this, about the need for a pitching avatar. See you soon.